Listen to me. Life doesn't give you shortcuts. It gives you opportunities. And those opportunities come disguised as habits. You don't wake up a hero. You become one by what you do every single day when no one's watching. From zero to hero isn't about talent. It's about consistency, discipline, and the refusal to quit. Greatness is built brick by brick, habit by habit. Today, I'm going to show you how the small things done consistently can transform your entire life forever. Consistency beats talent. You see, talent might open the door for you, but consistency is what keeps you in the room. There are people with more skill, more natural gifts, more intelligence, more physical ability, and they seem unstoppable when you first look at them. But if you take a closer look, talent alone doesn't guarantee success, because talent can get lazy, talent can get comfortable, talent can forget to show up. Consistency is different. Consistency doesn't care how you feel today or tomorrow. It doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if it's raining outside. It doesn't care if you don't feel motivated. Consistency is discipline in action. The decision to show up day after day, no matter the circumstances. And when you build that muscle of consistency, you become unstoppable in ways talent never could. Think about athletes, the ones you see dominating their sport. Some of them are not the most naturally gifted. Some don't run the fastest, don't jump the highest, don't have the flashiest moves. But they show up every single day to practice. They drill the basics. They work on the fundamentals. And over time, they pass the so-called talented. Ones who stop grinding. Consistency compounds. Every repetition adds up. Every day you show up, you add another brick to the foundation. Eventually, that foundation is so strong that nothing can knock it down. Talent may give someone a head start, but consistency is the engine that drives you past them, mile after mile, year after year. When you commit to consistency, you are choosing progress over perfection. You don't wait for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect plan. You act today, and then you act tomorrow, and then you act the day after that. It doesn't matter if you only move forward an inch. That inch repeated over hundreds of days becomes miles. Consistency is what transforms small, almost invisible actions into massive results over time. It's like water dripping on stone. One drop doesn't do much. 10 drops don't do much. But 1,000 drops, 10,000 drops over years, they carve through rock. Consistency beats the immovable. It outlasts resistance, and it builds character in the process. Talent can make people arrogant. It can make them think they don't need to work as hard as everyone else, that their natural gift will carry them. And for a while, it might. But eventually, talent without consistency falls behind. The world is filled with stories of people who had all the talent in the world, but wasted it because they never built habits, never developed discipline, never stayed consistent when it got hard. On the other hand, history is also full of people who had no special gift, no extraordinary ability, but they refused to quit. They kept working, and they outlasted everyone else. That's the power of consistency. It doesn't just beat talent, it humbles it. When you choose consistency, you take control of your life. You stop depending on motivation. Because motivation comes and goes. One day you feel like doing the work, the next day you don't. If you only act when you're motivated, you'll be inconsistent. And inconsistency kills dreams. But when you decide to be consistent, you train yourself to show up regardless of mood. You detach your commitment from your emotions. You don't ask, do I feel like it? You say, it's time to do it. That's the difference between amateurs and professionals, between dreamers and achievers. Amateurs wait for inspiration. Professionals rely on consistency. The more you practice consistency, the less you need motivation because the habit takes over. The routine becomes automatic. Success becomes a natural byproduct. Consistency is also what builds trust. When people know you are consistent, they can rely on you. They know you will show up when you say you will. They know you will deliver when it matters. They know you are dependable. Talent might impress them once, but consistency earns their respect forever. In relationships, in business, in leadership, people don't follow the most talented person. They follow the most consistent one. Because consistency means stability, and stability creates confidence. When you're consistent, people know they can count on you, and that opens doors talent never could. Consistency also sharpens your skill. Every day you repeat, you improve. Even if it's just a little, every rep makes you sharper. Every set makes you stronger. Every page you write makes you a better writer. Every sales call you make improves your pitch. Talent without practice stays raw, unrefined, and eventually outdated. Consistency turns raw ability into mastery. It's like a blacksmith hammering steel. One strike doesn't shape it, but thousands of strikes create a sword. Each repetition under the fire, each moment of pressure, each day of showing up and doing the work adds precision, sharpness, and strength. Over time, the consistent person becomes unbeatable because they are no longer relying on what they were given. They forge what they need. It's also important to realize that consistency doesn't mean perfection. You will stumble. You will have setbacks. You will miss a day or make mistakes. But consistency is about coming back, about never letting one failure turn into permanent quitting. Talent often collapses at the first obstacle, but consistency learns how to adapt, how to adjust, how to keep going even when things aren't perfect. That persistence, that refusal to stop, builds resilience. And resilience is one of the greatest advantages you can have in life. When others give up, you keep moving. When others get discouraged, you stay steady. Consistency trains your mind to think long-term, to endure, to focus on the bigger picture instead of getting lost in the moment. Consistency is freedom too. It gives you the power to create the life you want, not by chance, but by design. When you set habits and stick to them, your future is no longer uncertain. You don't need to guess whether you'll improve. You know you will, because consistency guarantees progress. It removes luck from the equation. It makes success predictable. If you lift weights every day, you will get stronger. If you practice your craft daily, you will get better. If you save money every month, you will build wealth. Consistency puts the odds in your favor. It stacks the deck for you. It makes success inevitable. Talent can fail, but consistency doesn't. Most people quit too early. They start strong, they're excited, they're motivated. But then life gets tough. Distractions show up, or progress feels too slow. They give up before the results come. That's where consistency makes the difference. Consistency means you don't chase quick wins. You don't need instant gratification. You're willing to grind in silence, to do the work day after day, even when no one is watching, even when there's no applause. And then one day, the results show up. One day, people look at you and call you talented. But what they're really seeing is the product of years of consistency. They see the shine, but not the grind. They see the reward, but not the repetition. Consistency also creates momentum. At first, the progress is slow. You might feel like nothing is happening, like all your effort is wasted. But consistency is like pushing a heavy flywheel. At first, it barely moves, then a little faster, then a little more, and eventually it spins on its own. That's the magic of consistency. Once you build momentum, things become easier, opportunities open up, success compounds. But you can't reach that momentum without paying the price up front, without staying consistent through the slow, boring, unseen stages. Talent may give someone a fast start, but without consistency, they lose momentum. While you, brick by brick, keep moving forward until nothing can stop you. Consistency beats talent because it's not a gift you're born with. It's a choice you make every single day. You can't control how much talent you were given, but you can control your consistency. And that control makes it more powerful than talent ever could be. Consistency is the great equalizer. It levels the playing field. It allows the average person to achieve extraordinary things simply by refusing to quit, refusing to take days off, refusing to let excuses win. It's not glamorous, it's not flashy, but it's unstoppable. Discipline creates identity. When you think about who you are and who you want to become, it's not your dreams or your intentions that shape that identity. It's the discipline you practice every single day. Identity isn't built by what you say you'll do. It's built by what you repeatedly do. If you want to become stronger, more focused, more successful, more respected, it begins with discipline, because discipline is the bridge between who you are right now and who you're trying to be. Without discipline, identity is just a wish. With discipline, identity becomes reality. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are shaping yourself into the person you claim you want to be. Discipline is about alignment. It aligns your actions with your values, your behavior with your goals, your habits with your vision. If you say you want to be fit, but you skip workouts every time you feel tired, then your identity is not an athlete. Your identity is someone who makes excuses. If you say you want to build wealth, but you spend every dollar you make, then your identity is not an investor. Your identity is someone living paycheck to paycheck. But when you exercise discipline, when you show up to train even when you're tired, when you save and invest even when you want to spend, you are aligning what you do with who you want to be. That alignment is what forges identity. Think about it. A disciplined soldier is identified by his habits of structure, obedience, and readiness. A disciplined artist is identified by their daily practice, their hours of creation, their refusal to wait for inspiration. A disciplined leader is identified by consistency, fairness, and steadiness under pressure. In every field, discipline is the root of identity. You don't get to call yourself disciplined. You prove it by living it day after day. You don't tell people who you are, you show them. And over time, your repeated discipline becomes your reputation. Your reputation becomes your character, and your character becomes your identity. Discipline creates identity because it's the only thing strong enough to resist the pull of temptation and distraction. Every day, life throws distractions at you. Social media, entertainment, comfort, excuses, negativity. They are all trying to pull you off course. Talent can't keep you focused. Motivation won't always be there. But discipline is the anchor that keeps you steady. The more you practice discipline, the less those distractions control you, because you've trained yourself to put long-term growth over short-term pleasure. And once people see that in you, they begin to know you by it. They identify you as the one who is committed, the one who follows through, the one who doesn't waver. That's an identity that commands respect. Discipline also defines how you see yourself. When you are disciplined, your self-image changes. You don't see yourself as weak or inconsistent. You see yourself as reliable, as strong, as capable. That's powerful because your identity shapes your behavior, and your behavior shapes your results. When you see yourself as disciplined, you act in line with that identity. You make decisions that reflect self-control. You avoid choices that pull you away from your values. You carry yourself with pride because you know you've earned it. Discipline doesn't just create identity in the eyes of others. It cements identity within yourself. Most people think identity is something you're born with, like personality or natural ability. But identity is built brick by brick, choice by choice. Discipline is the tool that lays those bricks. Every time you wake up early when you don't want to, every time you study when your friends are relaxing, every time you keep your word, even when it costs you, you are laying down a brick of discipline. Over time, those bricks build a wall. That wall becomes the structure of your identity, unshakable and solid. When challenges come, that wall protects you. When temptations arise, that wall holds you steady. Without discipline, your identity is fragile, easily broken. With discipline, your identity is fortified, indestructible. Discipline is also a form of self-respect. When you tell yourself you're going to do something and you actually follow through, you prove to yourself that your word matters. That builds confidence. It creates an identity rooted in integrity. But when you constantly break promises to yourself, when you say you'll change but never do, your identity becomes weak. You start to see yourself as someone who doesn't finish, someone who can't be trusted, someone who falls short. That's why discipline is not just about the external results. It's about the internal respect you gain when you live with discipline. That respect is the foundation of a strong identity. Discipline also separates you from the crowd. Most people want success, but few are willing to practice the discipline required to achieve it. When you are disciplined, you instantly stand out. While others hit snooze, you're already up. While others procrastinate, you're already moving. While others give excuses, you're already taking action. That separation is what defines your identity. People notice the difference, and over time, they label you differently. You become known as the one who doesn't slack off, the one who's consistent, the one who holds the line. Discipline elevates your identity above mediocrity. When you are disciplined, your identity is not tied to outcomes, it's tied to effort. You don't need to win every time to know who you are, because you know you gave everything. Discipline is doing the work regardless of the result. And when you live that way, your identity is unshakable. Win or lose, succeed or fail, you're still disciplined, and that's a powerful place to stand. People respect results, but they admire discipline because results can be temporary, but discipline is permanent. That permanence defines identity in a way success alone never can. Discipline also creates identity by connecting you to something bigger than yourself. When you practice discipline, you understand sacrifice. You realize that you're not living only for today. You're living for the future you're building. You sacrifice comfort now for strength later. Ease now for mastery later. Excuses now for opportunities later. That willingness to sacrifice through discipline creates a deeper sense of purpose, and purpose shapes identity. You stop identifying with the person who takes the easy way out and start identifying with the person who is committed to growth, to contribution, to excellence. That's a shift that changes not only how you see yourself, but how the world sees you. Discipline is also contagious. When you live with discipline, others are influenced by it. They start to expect more from themselves because your example raises the standard. Your identity becomes tied to leadership, to influence, to inspiration. People begin to look at you as someone they can follow, someone they can trust to set the example. Discipline doesn't just create your identity, it helps shape the identity of those around you. That ripple effect makes discipline even more powerful because it multiplies your impact. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's about big moments of heroism or dramatic breakthroughs. It's about the quiet, repetitive, daily choices that nobody sees. And yet, those are the choices that matter most because they define you. Talent can make you impressive for a moment. Luck can make you successful for a season. But discipline makes you respected for a lifetime. That's why discipline and identity are inseparable. One cannot exist in strength without the other. Every time you choose discipline, you are carving into your identity. Every time you refuse discipline, you are weakening it. The truth is, identity without discipline is hollow. It's easy to say you're dedicated, committed, hardworking. But the proof is in discipline. Your actions reveal your true identity. If you want to change who you are, don't change your words, change your habits. Discipline is the sculptor that chisels identity out of raw potential. Without discipline, potential stays hidden, undefined, shapeless. With discipline, potential becomes form, becomes structure, becomes undeniable identity. Habits shape your destiny. The life you live today is nothing more than the sum of the habits you built yesterday, and the life you will live tomorrow will be a reflection of the habits you are building today. Every choice you make, every action you repeat, every routine you follow becomes a thread in the fabric of your destiny. People think destiny is some mysterious force out of their control, something written in the stars, something only fate can decide. But the truth is, destiny is written every single day through the habits you create and the habits you allow to control you. If you wake up every day with discipline, focus, and drive, you are writing a destiny of growth, strength, and success. If you wake up every day with laziness, procrastination, and excuses, you are writing a destiny of regret, weakness, and failure. Habits are powerful because they work silently. They don't scream for attention. They don't announce their impact, but they slowly and consistently mold your character, your mindset, and your future. A single bad decision doesn't ruin your life, but repeating it over and over builds a habit that eventually defines you. A single good decision doesn't make you successful, but repeating it over and over builds a habit that eventually transforms you. Habits are the invisible architecture of your destiny, the unseen builder that lays the foundation of your future. What you do in private, what you repeat when no one is watching, what you practice daily without applause, that is what determines the course of your life. Habits shape destiny because they become automatic. At first, habits require effort and intention. You have to force yourself to wake up early, to work out, to study, to practice, to say no to distractions. But over time, those actions become ingrained. They become second nature. They become who you are. Once a habit is formed, it runs on autopilot, which means your destiny is being directed without you even thinking about it. That's why it's so important to be intentional about what habits you allow to take root. Because once they're set, they guide your life in that direction, whether you like it or not. Good habits make success automatic. Bad habits make failure automatic. Habits are stronger than goals. Goals give you direction, but habits create the path. You can set a goal to lose weight, but without the habit of eating healthy and exercising, that goal dies. You can set a goal to build wealth, but without the habit of saving and investing, that goal evaporates. You can set a goal to master a skill, but without the habit of practicing daily, that goal fades away. Habits are what make goals real. Habits are what take dreams out of your head and carve them into your reality. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. That's why habits are destiny. Because destiny isn't about what you dream of, it's about what you do repeatedly. Habits also determine your identity. What you repeatedly do becomes who you are. If you consistently read, you become a learner. If you consistently train, you become an athlete. If you consistently lead, you become a leader. Habits don't just shape outcomes, they shape identity, and identity shapes destiny. The person you believe yourself to be is built through the habits you live out every day. When your habits align with the identity you desire, your destiny follows. If your habits contradict the identity you want, your destiny gets pulled in the wrong direction. Habits are contagious. The people around you are influenced by your habits, and you are influenced by theirs. If you surround yourself with people who have habits of laziness, excuses, and negativity, those habits will rub off on you and pull your destiny downward. If you surround yourself with people who have habits of discipline, ambition, and positivity, those habits will lift you and pull your destiny upward. Your environment shapes your habits, and your habits shape your destiny. So the people and spaces you choose to be around are not casual. They are critical. Habits compound over time. A single workout won't transform your body, but years of consistent workouts will. A single book won't transform your mind, but years of consistent reading will. A single act of saving money won't make you wealthy, but years of consistent saving will. Habits are small investments repeated daily that compound into massive returns. Just like compound interest, the earlier you start and the longer you stay consistent, the bigger the payoff. People look at someone who is successful and think they made one big leap, but the truth is they built habits that compounded over years until the results became undeniable. Habits shape your destiny because they control your time. Every habit you have is either an investment or a waste. Time spent scrolling aimlessly, gossiping, or procrastinating is time stolen from your destiny. Time spent learning, training, creating, or building is time invested into your destiny. Since time is the most limited resource you have, the way your habits allocate that time determines where you end up. Destiny is not decided by how much time you have, but by how you use the time you're given. And habits dictate that usage. Habits also build resilience. When you face challenges, it's your habits that carry you through. If your habit is to quit when it gets hard, your destiny will be full of unfinished attempts. If your habit is to push through regardless of pain, your destiny will be full of victories. Habits become the default response when pressure hits. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall back on your training, and your training is nothing more than your habits. When adversity comes, the habits you built will decide whether you break or whether you endure. Habits are the language of discipline. Every disciplined person you admire doesn't live off of random willpower. They built habits that remove the need for constant decision-making. They don't think, should I work out today? They work out because it's a habit. They don't think, should I show up on time? They show up because it's a habit. Habits eliminate the debate in your mind. They free you from relying on fleeting motivation. They hardwire discipline into your daily life so that success becomes less about effort and more about system. Destiny isn't about occasional intensity. It's about consistent habits. Habits also reveal what you truly value. You can say health is important, but if your habits are fast food and inactivity, your destiny is not health, but sickness. You can say family is important, but if your habits are neglect and distraction, your destiny is not closeness, but distance. You can say success is important, but if your habits are procrastination and inconsistency, your destiny is not success, but mediocrity. Words don't write destiny, habits do. What you truly prioritize is shown in what you repeatedly do, not in what you claim to believe. Habits are choices disguised as lifestyle. At first, you consciously choose them, but then they become part of you, shaping your character, controlling your reactions, steering your future. The danger is that bad habits disguise themselves as comfort, as relief, as entertainment, but over time they become chains that limit your destiny. Good habits often disguise themselves as hard work, sacrifice, or inconvenience, but over time they become wings that lift your destiny. The habits you accept today determine the freedom or captivity of your tomorrow. Habits also create momentum. Once you start a habit, it creates a cycle. Bad habits create negative cycles. One bad decision leads to another. Laziness leads to more laziness. Excuses multiply. Good habits create positive cycles. One act of discipline leads to pride. Pride leads to motivation. Motivation fuels the next act of discipline. Momentum is destiny in motion, and habits decide whether that motion is upward or downward. Habits decide your legacy. Long after you're gone, people will remember you for the life you lived, the impact you made, the values you embodied. All of that is rooted in habits. If your habits were selfish, reckless, and inconsistent, your legacy will reflect that. If your habits were disciplined, generous, and steady, your legacy will reflect that. Destiny is not just about where you end up. It's about what you leave behind, and habits are the blueprint of that legacy. Habits also determine the opportunities you attract. People are drawn to those with habits of excellence, reliability, and discipline. Opportunities come to those who consistently prepare, not to those who wait for luck. If your habits are strong, doors open, connections are made, trust is built, and your destiny expands. If your habits are weak, doors close, trust breaks, and your destiny shrinks. Opportunities don't come by accident. They come to meet the habits you've already built. Habits shape your destiny because they define your trajectory. 1 degree of difference in a plane's direction doesn't seem like much at the start, but over miles, it takes you to an entirely different destination. Habits are the degrees of direction in your life. One habit may not look life-changing today, but over years, it will take you to a completely different destiny. The difference between success and failure, health and sickness, strength and weakness, greatness and mediocrity, often comes down to the small habits repeated daily that either elevate or destroy your life. Small steps build big victories. Every person who has ever achieved something great did it through small, consistent actions that compounded over time into something extraordinary. It's easy to look at champions, innovators, or successful entrepreneurs and think they made one giant leap, that they were somehow blessed with a moment of luck or divine intervention that changed everything overnight. But that's not the truth. The truth is hidden in the thousands of small steps they took when nobody was watching, the early mornings, the late nights, the repeated routines, the sacrifices, the little decisions that looked ordinary in the moment, but built extraordinary results in the long run. Big victories are never accidents. They are the inevitable outcome of small steps repeated with faith, patience, and discipline. A small step may not look like much at first. Waking up an hour earlier, reading 10 pages of a book, writing a single paragraph, saving a small amount of money, doing a short workout. None of these actions feel life-changing in the moment. They are quiet, almost invisible, and that's why most people underestimate them. But the power of small steps is not in what they achieve in one day. It's in what they achieve when compounded across weeks, months, and years. One small step repeated consistently creates a chain reaction. And over time, that chain reaction leads to victories so big people call them miracles, when in reality, they were just mathematics. Small steps build momentum. Momentum doesn't come from massive leaps. It comes from the discipline of taking one step forward every single day. When you're stuck, when the mountain looks too high, when the road feels too long, the temptation is to freeze, to overthink, to tell yourself the goal is impossible. But if you take just one step, even the smallest step, you create motion. That motion fuels confidence. That confidence fuels another step. And soon enough, what once looked impossible becomes possible. The human mind is designed to thrive on progress, even tiny progress. Every small step tells your brain, I'm moving, I'm growing, I'm improving. And that belief pushes you toward the next victory. Small steps also build habits. Habits are not born from giant, overwhelming actions. They are built from small, repeatable actions. If you want to run a marathon, you don't start by running 26 miles. You start by running one. If you want to write a book, you don't start with 300 pages. You start with one paragraph. If you want to transform your body, you don't need to lift for 3 hours a day. You start with a workout you can repeat consistently. Big goals break people because they focus on the enormity of the outcome instead of the simplicity of the first step. But once you master the small step and make it a habit, the bigger steps become easier. And over time, the habit builds an identity that carries you to victories far larger than you imagined. Small steps are proof of commitment. Anyone can talk about big dreams. Anyone can get excited about big goals, but the real test is in whether you're willing to take the small, unglamorous steps every single day. Talk is easy, action is rare, and consistent small action is the rarest of all. Every small step you take is evidence that you are serious about your vision. Every time you choose to practice instead of procrastinate, to read instead of scroll, to train instead of quit, you prove to yourself and to the world that your dream is real. Over time, those small proofs build unshakable confidence because you no longer need to rely on motivation. You have evidence of your commitment in the thousands of small steps behind you. Small steps also protect you from burnout. If you try to do everything at once, if you demand massive leaps from yourself every day, you will eventually collapse under the pressure. Progress that is too intense cannot be sustained. But small, consistent progress can be carried for a lifetime. It's not about sprinting towards success and running out of breath. It's about pacing yourself with small steps that allow you to keep moving no matter how far the journey. When you focus on small steps, you avoid the trap of perfectionism because you no longer need to do everything at once. You only need to do the next thing, the next small step, and that is always within your control. Small steps build resilience. Every time you take a small step despite obstacles, despite setbacks, despite challenges, you are training yourself to endure. Big victories often require years of perseverance. And the only way to develop perseverance is by showing up daily, step by step, even when you don't feel like it. Those small steps train your mind to push through resistance, to adapt when things go wrong, to keep going when others quit. Over time, that resilience becomes your competitive advantage. Others may burn out chasing big leaps, but you endure because you mastered the discipline of small steps. Small steps create clarity. When you're overwhelmed by a big dream, you often don't know where to start, and that paralysis keeps you stuck. But when you take a small step, the next step often reveals itself. Action creates clarity, and clarity fuels momentum. You don't need to know the entire path. You just need to know the next step. As you take that step, the road unfolds, and soon enough, the path to your big victory becomes visible. Without small steps, you stay stuck in analysis, trapped in fear, overwhelmed by the size of your goal. With small steps, you move forward, and movement always beats hesitation. Small steps compound into confidence. Confidence is not built by imagining success or speaking affirmations. It's built by proof. Every small step you take is proof that you can act, proof that you can endure, proof that you can follow through. The more proof you accumulate, the stronger your confidence becomes. When you have years of small steps behind you, confidence is no longer fragile, it's bulletproof. You don't hope you can succeed, you know you can, because you've been proving it to yourself every day with action. Confidence rooted in small steps cannot be shaken because it's grounded in evidence, not emotion. Small steps also reveal character. Anybody can take one big leap when the spotlight is on them, but who you really are is revealed in the small, unseen steps you take when nobody is watching. Do you study when no one is grading you? Do you train when no one is cheering for you? Do you practice when no one is rewarding you? Those small, private steps are what separate pretenders from contenders, talkers from doers, dreamers from achievers. Big victories are simply the public unveiling of the character that was built in private through countless small steps. Small steps make the impossible possible. If someone told you to climb a mountain in a single leap, you would laugh at the impossibility. But if they told you to take one step, then another, eventually you would reach the top. That's how every great achievement works. At first, it looks impossible. The distance between where you are and where you want to be seems too great. But when you break it down into small steps, suddenly it becomes doable. Every step shrinks the gap. Every step brings you closer. What once felt out of reach slowly becomes reality. Not because you leapt across the gap, but because you walked across it one step at a time. Small steps also silence fear. Fear thrives in stillness, in inactivity, in the space where your mind imagines everything that could go wrong. But when you take a small step, fear loses power. Action is the antidote to fear, and small actions are the easiest to take. You may not have the courage to face the entire mountain, but you can take one step. And once you take that step, the fear weakens and the next step becomes easier. By the time you've taken 1,000 small steps, the fear that once paralyzed you is gone, replaced by the strength and confidence you built through action. Small steps create discipline. Discipline is not about huge sacrifice once in a while. It's about small sacrifices every day. saying no to the donut, saying yes to the workout, choosing to write instead of watch TV, choosing to study instead of scroll. All of these are small decisions, but together they create the discipline that builds big victories. Every small step trains your brain to prioritize long-term gain over short-term comfort. Over time, that discipline becomes automatic, and once discipline becomes automatic, success becomes inevitable. Small steps are also universal. They apply to every area of life: health, business, relationships, personal growth. You don't build a great relationship overnight. You build it through small acts of love, patience, listening, and understanding repeated daily. You don't build a successful business overnight. You build it through small decisions, consistent service, daily problem solving, and steady improvement. You don't build wisdom overnight. You build it through reading, reflecting, learning, and applying day after day. No matter the field, the principle remains the same: small steps build big victories. Small steps are often the only option you have. Sometimes life doesn't give you the ability to make a giant leap. Maybe you don't have the resources, the knowledge, the network, or the opportunity. But you always have the ability to take one small step. And if you take that step and then another, eventually you create the opportunities, gather the resources, and build the knowledge. People who wait for the big chance waste years of their lives. People who take small steps every day create the big chance for themselves. Commitment turns ordinary into extraordinary. When you look at the difference between the people who live average lives and the people who rise to greatness, the gap is not always talent, resources, or opportunities. The real gap is commitment. Ordinary people dabble. They test the waters. They try something until it gets hard. Then they move on. Extraordinary people commit. They burn the bridges behind them. They refuse to quit. They lock in on a mission and refuse to let go until it's done. That level of commitment transforms everything. It elevates the same skills, the same hours, the same opportunities into something far more powerful, because the person behind them refuses to let circumstances decide their future. Commitment is the fire that takes ordinary fuel and ignites it into extraordinary flames. Commitment means you no longer give yourself options. Ordinary minds always leave an escape route. They say they'll try, but they leave room to quit. They say they'll start, but they keep backup plans in case it doesn't work out. Extraordinary minds erase the backup plans. They say, this is it. This is what I'm doing. I will succeed or I will fail trying, but I will not quit. That mindset alone is enough to separate you from the crowd. Because when the ordinary stop at the first obstacle, the committed push through. When the ordinary let doubt win, the committed keep fighting. That persistence, born of commitment, is what creates extraordinary results. Commitment reshapes how you see pain and struggle. Ordinary people see pain as a reason to stop, as a sign they should give up. Committed people see pain as proof they're moving forward, as evidence they're stretching beyond their comfort zone. They embrace it because they know growth lives on the other side of discomfort. Every extraordinary story is written in the ink of commitment, in the willingness to endure storms, setbacks, and suffering without surrendering. It's not that extraordinary people don't face hardship, they do. The difference is they refuse to let hardship stop them because their commitment is stronger than their circumstances. Commitment makes you consistent. Ordinary people are driven by motivation, and motivation comes and goes. Extraordinary people are driven by commitment, and commitment doesn't care about moods. You wake up tired, you still show up. You failed yesterday, you still show up. You don't feel like it today, you still show up. That consistency is what builds greatness, and consistency is fueled by commitment. Without commitment, consistency collapses. Without consistency, greatness is impossible. But with commitment, you build a foundation so solid that nothing can shake it. Commitment changes your standards. Ordinary people accept excuses. They let themselves off the hook. They say things like, I'll do it tomorrow, or it's good enough, or at least I tried. But commitment raises the bar. Commitment doesn't allow you to settle for good enough. Commitment demands your best, even when nobody is watching. It demands that you hold yourself accountable, that you keep promises you made to yourself, even when nobody else knows you made them. That higher standard is what turns ordinary effort into extraordinary achievement. Commitment builds trust. Ordinary people break their own word, and over time they lose trust in themselves. They say they'll change, but never do. They say they'll follow through, but quit halfway. When you live that way, you don't even believe yourself anymore. But commitment restores that trust. When you commit and actually follow through, you begin to trust yourself. You start to believe in your own word. And that belief is powerful because it gives you the confidence to aim higher and achieve more. Others begin to trust you too because they see your actions match your words. Opportunities flow to committed people because they've proven they can be relied on. Commitment separates amateurs from professionals. The amateur treats their passion like a hobby. They work when it's convenient, when it's fun, when it's easy. The professional treats their passion like a calling. They show up when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's exhausting. That difference is commitment. Commitment is what makes someone decide that this is not just something they do. It's who they are. And when it becomes who you are, your effort is no longer optional. Extraordinary results are simply the byproduct of that identity. Commitment creates breakthroughs. Ordinary people stop just before the breakthrough, just before the moment when things were about to shift. They quit because it's taking too long, because progress feels slow, because results aren't visible yet. But the committed keep going. They grind through the invisible stages. They dig through the dark when there's no sign of light. And then suddenly the breakthrough comes. To everyone else, it looks like an overnight success. But the committed know it wasn't luck. It was the accumulation of years of persistence, years of refusing to quit, years of commitment paying off. Commitment sharpens focus. Ordinary people get distracted easily. They chase new opportunities, new trends, new shortcuts. They spread themselves thin, chasing everything and mastering nothing. Committed people lock in. They pick a direction, and they stay on it long enough to succeed. They don't chase every distraction because they know distractions dilute commitment, and diluted commitment produces ordinary results. Extraordinary results come from focused commitment, from pouring all your energy into one mission until it's achieved. Commitment gives you strength when nothing else does. Talent may fail you, motivation may vanish, resources may dry up, but commitment will keep you moving. When you're committed, you find a way. You work with what you have. You improvise, you adapt, you push forward. Ordinary people stop when the path is blocked. Extraordinary people climb over, dig under, or break through because commitment refuses to accept excuses. That's why commitment is stronger than talent. Talent is potential, but commitment is power. Commitment transforms ordinary effort into mastery. Anyone can practice for a week or a month. Anyone can train while they're excited. But mastery is born from years of commitment. Extraordinary athletes, musicians, entrepreneurs, and leaders are not extraordinary because they practiced once in a while. They are extraordinary because they committed to the craft long after the initial excitement was gone. Their extraordinary results are nothing more than ordinary practice repeated with extraordinary commitment. Commitment reveals character. Ordinary people crumble under pressure. They abandon their principles when it's inconvenient. They compromise their integrity when it costs too much. But committed people stay true. Their word is their bond. Their actions reflect their values, even when it's costly, even when nobody is watching. That integrity becomes part of their identity, and that identity becomes the foundation of their legacy. Commitment isn't just about achieving goals. It's about becoming the kind of person who cannot be shaken. Commitment inspires others. Ordinary effort doesn't inspire anyone because it's common, it's expected. Extraordinary commitment, however, lights a fire in others. When people see you keep going after countless failures, when they see you sacrifice for your dream, when they see you refuse to quit, they are moved. They begin to believe more in themselves because they saw commitment in you. Commitment is contagious. It multiplies. Your commitment can be the spark that changes not only your destiny, but the destinies of everyone watching you. Commitment gives meaning to sacrifice. Sacrifice without commitment feels like suffering without purpose. But when you're committed, sacrifice feels like investment. You willingly give up comfort, time, money, and energy because you know it's building something greater. Ordinary people see sacrifice as loss. Extraordinary people see sacrifice as the cost of greatness. The difference is commitment, because commitment connects the pain of today to the victory of tomorrow. Commitment transforms fear into courage. Fear is natural, but when you're committed, fear doesn't control you. You may feel afraid, but your commitment is stronger than your fear. You take the step anyway. You face the challenge anyway. You fight the battle anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the dominance of commitment over fear. Ordinary people wait for fear to disappear, and so they wait forever. Extraordinary people act in spite of fear because commitment doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Commitment also brings freedom. Ordinary people think commitment traps them, that it limits their options, that it takes away freedom. But the truth is the opposite. Commitment creates freedom because it removes indecision. When you're committed, you don't waste energy wondering if you'll quit, if you'll show up, if you'll try again. The decision is already made. That clarity frees you to focus all your energy on progress. Ordinary people waste years drifting because they never commit. Extraordinary people commit, and that commitment liberates them to create the life they want. Commitment also draws respect. People may admire talent, but they respect commitment. Talent is often seen as a gift, but commitment is always a choice. And people respect choices. They respect those who refuse to quit, those who keep their word, those who endure. Respect is not given to the ordinary. It is earned by the extraordinary, and commitment is what earns it. When you live with commitment, people may not always like you, but they will always respect you. Commitment turns moments into movements. Ordinary effort produces short-term results. Extraordinary commitment produces lasting impact. When you commit to a cause, to a mission, to a vision greater than yourself, your life becomes bigger than your own goals. It becomes a movement that influences generations. Every great movement in history was built not by the most talented individuals, but by the most committed. People who refused to quit, who stayed true to the vision no matter the cost. Their extraordinary commitment reshaped the world. Commitment doesn't just change what you achieve. It changes who you are. It hardens you, sharpens you, strengthens you. It takes you from ordinary to extraordinary, not just in results, but in character. Ordinary people drift, extraordinary people decide. Ordinary people quit, extraordinary people commit. The difference is not in what they were given, it's in what they gave. Commitment is the choice to give everything, to hold nothing back, to keep moving no matter what. That choice is what transforms ordinary into extraordinary.